It's just amazing how fast things change, and guys like you that are true entrepreneurs adapt. You've done everything from throw weddings in that old main space to now creating a concept called Stream State.
The interesting thing that the pandemic ushered in was how people hunkered down, right? And they started to consume all their media via streaming. All the brands had to reinvent during that time period. And we had Maine Organic Farmers Association was kind of in a holy thing because, that was 90%, 99% of their revenue was that the Common Ground Fair. And we were asked to see if we could do a online version and stream to the world the Common Ground Fair. And we said, sure, let's go help this group out. Let's try to be relevant when it's hard to be relevant. And all of a sudden, we're just seeing all this people viewing from all over the world. And before we knew it, there was 3,000 people watching this, funky garlic farmer from Maine. And I'm like, holy this is something.
Having a beer with Fred is really about getting to people's passion and what makes them tick. Having a beer and having honest, frank, clear conversation that inspires our audience is what it's about.
So, starting back in the beginning when you and I met, as I remember it, I was living on Willard Beach. I just bought a home. I was in my probably 20s. I was like 28. And it was a party house, and Peter Olo had one of my roommates, and he had a way of inviting interesting, fun people. As I think back, I met you, I met Don Campbell, I met a number of people. It was a lot of fun. But this podcast is about having a beer with Fred, and also talking about entrepreneurship. And when I think of entrepreneurs, I think of guys that have done and created companies, and also at the same time, to a great extent, I always think of the bootstrapping involved in entrepreneurship. And Rory and I think we'll kind of fast forward back. I mean, you grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I say, like, I took an entrepreneur class at Arizona State going way back to the 80s, and one of the key things was a lot of entrepreneurs grew up in entrepreneurial experiences. And your dad was he was a performer, but he also did a lot more, right?
Oh, yeah. And at both sides of my family, my mom, they were both artists and they were both very creative. And, my mom came out of a banking family. And as a school teacher, she managed to create quite a little mini real estate enterprise, out of nothing. And, my dad I continue to learn stories about, it's just stories like when he got into the army and he was sent overseas, and this is Vietnam, and he got lucky. He pulled the car to go to Italy and not Vietnam because he was a performer and they wanted him to perform for the troops. And somehow he talked Vespa into sponsoring him. Fend him open.
That's where you got it from. That's where you got it from. So, I mean, just going down the list, I mean, you started basically WSKI at Sugarloaf, created basically a very successful video platform before people were even doing that, and leveraged that, created it, sold out of that. But today, fast forwarding, we're working on an exciting project. You came to me 3 or 4 months ago now, maybe even longer, with this idea. Talk about that idea you're starting.
Yeah, I know. Fast forward, the interesting thing that the pandemic ushered in was how people hunkered down, right? And they started to consume all their media via streaming, okay? And whether it was big movies or niche content, they were an avid fly fisherman. They wanted to see fly fishing content, or a boater. And it was kind of a period of reinvention, right? All the brands had to reinvent during that time period. And we had Maine Organic Farmers Association was kind of an holy thing because, that was 90%, 99% of their revenue was that the Common Ground Fair. And all those vendors that went there, okay, all the craft makers, a good portion of them, that was like 80% of their revenue was those 3 or 4 days of the Common Ground Fair. And we were asked to see if we could do a online version and stream to the world the Common Ground Fair. And we said, sure, let's go help this group out. Let's try to be relevant when it's hard to be relevant. And we're feeding out these workshops and talking with these farmers and these craft makers. And then I just remember there's this really neat guy who is this organic gardener farm, garlic. And all of a sudden we're just seeing all this people viewing from all over the world. And before we knew it, there was 3,000 people watching this, funky garlic farmer from Maine. And I'm like, holy, this is something. Fast forward, I knew that the growth of streaming would just continue and that entertainment would be mainly consumed kind of on demand. Like you want to see what you want, when you want. And that was the catalyst for saying, okay, my business partner, Trish, and I've got to get back into the distribution business because when I was on Resort Sports Network, we were a distributor of content. And I said, okay, let's get back into the distribution, not just the production, but the distribution. And so we launched Stream State February 1st with live streaming of the National Toboggan or U.S. National Toboggan Championships. And sure enough, it was another one of these garlic moments. People tuning in from all over the country, sending messages. That's my mom with the purple hair on the toboggan. So it's kind of cool.
Well, yeah. So spell your first name. I'm going to tell people a little more about you, too.
R-O-R.
Your first and last name, your full name.
Rory, R-O-R-Y.
Yep.
R-O-R-Y-S-T-R-U-N-K.
So Rory Strunk from basically Maine, pretty much your whole life. And right now you're sitting at Maine Studios in Portland, Maine, which is in itself a story in entrepreneurship. You took an old space that was really in rough shape. You rented it from a friend of ours, Vin Verino, and I've mentioned Vinny in the past and his company because of his, dynamic connections to entrepreneurship in Portland. And you took that space and created Maine Studios to be an event space. You had the largest green screen in Maine. You and I have done a number of events there. Like you said, you endured COVID by creating some interesting content. You and I were working on a concept. We were going to have this 60,000 square foot event facility, and we're going to involve and collaborate with all these different people. And that didn't happen because of COVID. And then you backed up, and I sold the building. And it's just amazing how fast things change. And guys like you that are true entrepreneurs adapt. They adapt and they deal with it. You've done everything from throw weddings in that Maine space to now creating a concept called Stream State.
Right.
And,
Yep.
and you called me about it, and with really being honest about it, a lot of people in my company go, "Okay, Rory's got another idea. Let's what are we gonna do now? We've done oyster festivals, and we've done Chef Summit with Sunday River. One of the coolest things to this day, and my wife Judy, and you called me and said, "Hey, listen, you got to come to Sunday River." There's a guy named Dumont. He's just a phenomenal guy from Maine, but he's doing a half pipe. It's gonna go up 6 stories, and we're gonna catch it for Red Bull. And you got to be there, and you're gonna love it if you can make it. So I said to Judy, and at the time she was still skiing, and so I don't know. She loves you anyway. She goes, "All right, we'll go." And we went, and there weren't that many people watching. We sat underneath the and you were going crazy with the videographer,
Right.
and trying to get that right picture. Yes.
Yep.
And the kid, and he nailed it. Right.
He nailed it.
Nailed that.
Simon Dumont.
Yeah. And Simon Dumas, it was a sunny, brisk day at Sunday River. not much wind, thank God, right? Because it could.
Oh my God, it was perfect. It was perfect.
And then you and I also we tried to get the city of Portland one time to agree to let us do a you had Red Bull willing, they wanted to bring the ice skating
The crashed ice.
just
Yeah.
and of course the city of Portland couldn't find their way to agree to that one. Why would they, right? Like and then we had some moments like that over the years.
Yeah.
Good friend when John Richardson was head of economic development for the state of Maine, God rest his soul, he was a big believer in what you did and your passion. And right now, we're trying to get the Maine film industry to convince the Maine legislature to, and we talked about that on our last video, to change the law so Maine could be competitive with making films.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not going to do that because that makes too much sense. Like halfway on the state is look.
So, I was just, if anybody gets a chance, there's a tour that takes you on a tour of Stephen King's films and everything in Bangor. It's a fascinating tour. Okay. And what you learn is just how amazing and gracious Stephen King and his wife have been to that city as a result of his, is able to craft his writing from Maine, okay, and the books. But I think he's like somewhere in the order of 200 films that have been shot, from his scripts, okay, and his books. Five of them have been shot in the state of Maine. Now, if you would have taken, yeah, and they're mega hits, but that would have paid for, the tax incentives would have paid for a lot of bridges. I'm saying seriously, bridges, schools. I mean, he's been paying for bridges and schools in Bangor, and then I so wish, we so wish we could just change, throw up the pixie sticks and say, hey guys, sometimes less is more,
Yeah. Well, this is definitely not a political statement or an idea, but both you and I talk about, making Maine more business friendly and trying to get people to get behind that. And constantly there are things that get thrown up. Even tonight in Portland, Maine, they may put a moratorium on a 3,300 square foot venue Howard Goldenfarb and his son Todd want to build with Live Nation, and they're not asking for anything from the city. And it's like, here's a gift. And for whatever reason, they can't, I think I don't know what they're worried about, but at the end of the day, Stream State is another venture. Right now, we've got some interesting content on there, but you asked us at Shipyard and CDOG and Federal Jacks to come on board by putting some video cameras, some basically to explain what we did. Explain.
Yeah, no. So, um, you know, you're one of these unique brands where you've got rich content right out your front door. Okay, I mean, you're a beer company, and you have these wonderful Sea Dogs and Federal Jacks on these, up at Sugarloaf and on the coast, and those are content rich, destinations that people love, and you just stare. And why do people go there? They want to sit on the porch, have a wonderful meal, and see these awesome views. And now we can bring those awesome views to the world, and do so all up and down the coast of Maine, and then into the mountains, and then you start to wrap that in with content that's locally originated. So whether it's the live events from Camden, like the National Toboggan Championships, or maybe in Portland, come this summer, the lobster boat races, or Jody Benoit with our work with her and the Beach to Beacon, and then films and programming. But the vibrancy of Maine, that's what we're trying to export, is the vibrancy of Maine.
Yeah, and then you're also talking about, in the event of emergency, those cameras will hopefully be working so that police and firemen and utility people could look and say, okay, well, Kennebunkport Harbor, the tide is, over the water or whatever.
Yeah. And do you remember during that 2 years ago, the January storm, when you guys had to evacuate Federal Jacks and Topsom? So that camera, and they were worried that the bridge was going to fall apart, right?
and talk.
And we have a camera right on that point. So if that bridge would have come down,
See that?
we would have seen that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, and that, I mean, so we've become committed to it with the camera support. We did things like with our Starlink, you're using that.
Yeah.
And so that one was like, so we go to remote events, and like you did with the event up in Camden where we supported the Sea Dog Camden. Bobby Labby and the group got behind that with the town and you and again, it's you go to streamstate.com and it pops up
Stream Street Stream Street TV. TV.
TV. And so this is your latest, newest venture in the sense of you've given 110, you're giving 110% to it.
Yep.
You're pushing on it, but at the same time, you're juggling Omain Studios, and which is still a place where people can come do their own video filming and also have events. What's the address? It's
54 Danforth. 54 Danforth.
What?
Yeah.
in Portland.
What- what's neat about Stream State, when we got that wonderful article in the Portland Press Herald, we got so many people reaching out. And Fred, like when people want to be a part of something and they start to take ownership, you've got something. So, we had colleges wanting to subscribe for their students. We had business leaders who had, phenomenal videos that they wanted to get out to the public. We had endless producers that are sitting on beautiful pieces of work. This one guy from a National Geographic photographer who spends his summers in Maine sent me his library and said, I would just want to get it exposed. And it's phenomenal content. So it's kind of neat to have a resource that literally I see it as kind of a public resource because everybody can contribute.
Yeah, you got that Sugarloafer film going back to, like I don't think half those people are still with us anymore, but it was kind of cool to see going way back. But yeah, no, and you have the Johnny Benoit films and the she's some of the things that she's done for video content. But I think as it evolves, there'll be more and more interesting things, as well as just the cams that people can go on and watch. But what's coming up in the future? What do you got?
Well, I think the biggest thing that there's a tectonic shift here in the value of local content. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to see this. And you just think about Portland, you got national things like, Netflix is a national thing with all these brands. Now, boil this down to sports. Okay. Portland is the #1 minor league state in the country. Okay. We're a fraction of those other sizes. But somehow with the Sea Dogs, the Maine Celtics, and now, Hearts of Pine, those entrepreneurs have crafted products that represent baseball, but they more represent Maine, don't you think? The way they program them. So,
I mean, Maine in the summer. I mean, you got the basketball in the winter, but it's definitely tied to iconic brands. I mean, only being an hour and 45 minutes to Boston with no traffic, obviously. I mean, Boston is the epic center of sports.
So what I kind of see, Fred, coming is that the value of people the value of people wanting to connect to community is only growing. Okay. And we're in these chaotic times where the news can be depressing every day, right? But staying connected to the things you love and the places you love and the things you want to do keep you going. And we're going to see, we're starting to get these technology tools to do, like we've in Camden and Thompson, those cams can be programmed to be 3 or 4 different viewpoints every couple of minutes. So people can see the boats sailing, the kayaks coming, the windjammers coming in, or the skiers going down the mountain. And the next generation of this is, I see this, and we'll see it this summer. We're going to bring kind of immersive experiences. So with Matt Polstein at New England Outdoors, we're going to start to take a live camera out he does these moose. Goes out on the lake and goes and takes people out to go moose on like moose tours in the morning. So the ability to just travel with him to see the moose in Millinocket, or going on a whaleboat watch in Bar Harbor, or, the live fishing from, the decks of boats coming in and out of Camden. I mean, in Kennebunkport, we're going to see a new generation of really connected, vibrant content because the technology is getting more affordable and people want it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they want to participate. Some people want to, like you said, share it's the right quality and whatnot. But yeah, and you're keeping it fun. You've always been involved in so many different activities and supporting others as well. So that energy will come back to you for sure. You're at Jimmy Champy and Don Campbell.
Oh God, that was such a great fundraiser.
Night. Yeah, for Candy, my sister, Candace Cares, and we do a golf tournament this summer. But yeah, so this is exciting. I'm sure, uh, I know it's going to be a success. I feel the energy. You got Channel 6 in Portland, Maine, as basically you're excited about as well, right?
So we have a new partnership with them, and this is a good example of how you're going to see content grow. They want to grow community content, so we're going to have all of our cams, available exclusively to them. We're going to simulcast our events that we're covering, and then we're going to start creating some programming. And we have a new culinary partnership where we're going to upgrade the kitchen, which is going to be so cool. And we're going to start creating some culinary content that we want to export out of Maine, and distribute out of Maine to attract visitors to Maine because we have such an incredible hospitality business and a food industry.
And your partner Tristan Noyes is he still involved in Maine Grains too?
Oh, lost you, Fred, for a second. I got you. I hear you now. What were you saying?
Is Tristan Noyes, your partner, still involved with Maine Grains?
Yeah, I mean, he's the executive director of the Maine Grain, so he's been helping, grow the grain economy, which of course beer companies are a huge part of. Um, and but his connections to the agriculture side of the Maine economy, we've done so many cool things with videos and programming, and we're doing a number of initiatives on that right now with Tristan's at the lead.
Yeah, so he's from the county.
Yep.
And we tried to do a deal up in Limestone, with county whiskey,
Yeah.
and all before COVID. I'll never forget the meeting we had. We won't name all the names, but everybody was hugging and shaking hands, and I had just heard about COVID, and I said, I don't think I'm going to shake hands. There's a whole thing. Anyway, so long story short, everything got shut down, and we took other directions. But I'm actually going to distill some spirits from the barley from the Buck family farm again, and barrel age some county whiskey. So we'll have to sample some together.
Awesome. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I was thinking about a word that you have, and a lot of other entrepreneurs I know have, and it's persistence.
Yep.
It's like this. It's this steady kind of. It may not be. The minute you stop with that persistence is the minute the idea or the passion or whatever can fizzle out. But you've maintained this steady kind of passion and persistence.
And Fred, you yourself, I mean, God Almighty, how many things you've seen, the ups and downs, and persistence and tenacity are two of the same, terms. And your tenacity to kind of stay in the game and reinvent, and you created the pumpkin when there was no pumpkin ale available, and now you got a zillion people following you, and but it's amazing.
You have to keep going. Have to keep making it fun, and that's what you do, Rory. So cheers to you. Cheers